to the BAM Pod. All right, welcome in, everybody. Thank you for coming here and listening to the BAM Pod. That's right. We've got a great angler on tonight, and his name is Beau Fletcher. He's coming out here. He's fishing on the BAM Trail. Beau, welcome into the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
No, this has been, you guys are doing, we talked a little bit earlier, you guys are doing your own podcast. What's the name of your podcast?
So ours is the Alpha Basscast.
Alpha Basscast. Now, we talked about it. It's a little different, but if you guys want to tune in and listen to it, that's a great show to listen to. It's a bunch of guys, bunch of anglers. I won't even say guys, just a bunch of anglers sitting around. They have some guests on there. They kind of talk about life on the tour. But today, we are going to talk about springtime bass fishing, man. It is time right now. People are getting excited. They know they can get their personal best. They know they can go out there and start catching bedfish. They know they can go out there and just have a great time because it's getting warm again, and people are going to want to fire up them boats and get out on the water. And Beau, as a pro angler, you kind of get that whole I guess extra event. You can go out there and do your fishing a lot more consistently. The average guy, I always say that, the average guy gets maybe 1 or 2 times a month they get to go out. You get to go out there, a couple times a week, maybe 3, maybe 4. Sometimes when a tournament's coming, you get out there for an entire week. So you are the type of guy that all these people want to listen to. So, Beau, how do you go at and approach springtime fishing and looking for those great big fish?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, thank you for that beautiful embellishment of of who I am. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So I'm from Oregon. I'm born and raised here. And so you're down in California, right? Whereabouts?
The sunny part. Oh, northern.
Right. Well, I see. We don't know anything about sun. I think my my main body of water is the Columbia River. I think it just broke 40 degrees, the water, a couple weeks ago, week or two ago. So, spring fishing comes a lot later for us. That's why I get really excited to go south.
Yeah.
Because, we start to get down and get down to some pre-spawn, and even, if it's been warm enough, get into some spawning behaviors, which is a lot of fun. But, I'm a river smallmouth fisherman.
Okay.
That's kind of where I fell in love with bass fishing. And it's really getting down and fishing the California lakes around this time. I have to turn off my river brain. And that's usually the toughest thing for me to do. I'm going down to lakes. I have to slow down. We don't have current down there in most cases. So I really have to kind of change the way I think about, my instinct wants to think about fishing.
That's it? River
I mean,
fishing?
I can keep going.
No, I mean that's I look at this as if you're going to go from river and do you pretty much up there you say that's your body of water, the Columbia River up there, that's your body of water, and that's what you fish and smallmouth fishing, but are there just very little lakes up there that you fish, or you pretty much just that's what I like to fish, that's where I stay fishing?
I mean, it's not a little known fact. There's not a lot of largemouth fishing in Oregon. We have the coastal lakes. That's about 3.5 hours from me.
Okay.
10 Mile Lake, Siltcoos, Taconich, and there's phenomenal largemouth fishing. We actually the big kickoff tournament up here in Oregon is called the Frostbite. It usually happens right around the end of February, 1st of March. And yes, it's called the Frostbite for a reason. It's and anybody who has tried to fish for largemouth in cold water and cold weather knows it's just usually a grind. I think this year, I want to say, I think it was like 50 boats showed up. I think there was like 4 limits weighed in.
Okay.
And I think over half the field didn't weigh in. So
Wow.
you can do the math on how exciting of a tournament that is. But So Oregon, yeah. So we don't
Oh,
have a huge amount of largemouth bodies of water. There are
okay.
largemouth in the river, and we definitely, when you can go get on them, that's a lot of fun. Um, but you're either going up to Washington to kind of there's a lot more largemouth opportunities up there, I believe, or we're heading down to California, which
Sure.
we get Don Pedro next week.
I was just gonna say that, because if nothing else, we have the end of this week, I believe. Yes, I dropped. Let's see. Oh, yep. 28th, 29th, and 30th.
Yeah,
We go down to Lake Don Pedro. Now, if anybody listening right now doesn't know, if you didn't listen to my last show, we had the winners of that event on there, and they talked about how the fishing was. And Christian Ostrander, who is no slouch when it comes to fishing. I mean, if I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
I I, I
he's a
I would say he's all right.
he's a pretty good. I mean, you give him the right bobber and he'll sit there all day, right? It's one of those things. He's a darn good angler. That guy is
Hands to
one
hand,
heck of a stick. I mean,
absolutely.
we kid, Christian, but he is one of the most amazing fishermen on the West Coast. Um, I will tell you this. He talked about Pedro coming up this weekend. It was like, oh my, it could get good. I mean, we had a 10-pounder weighed in last week, or at the last event, there was a 10-pounder weighed in. This event, everybody that I've talked to so far about this one coming up says, hold your whatever, because this one could be a lot of big fish caught. It should be something that each day is going to take over 30 or 40 pounds. And I went, wait, no, you're kidding, right? What do you think about that when you're coming from a body of water like the Columbia River up there, or you're coming from some of those? Now you're coming down here, California water, warm, big, big fish in that water. Do you think it's going to take something like that? And do you think you're going to have that?
Oof. I mean, I it, you know, the one thing that I keep wondering about is we had most of the lakes in that area you can't fish right now, and there is a lot of traffic on Don Pedro,
Yeah.
and and I'm not just talking tournaments. I know that I think I took a look. It was right around the Pro Am. I took a look at kind of what the tournament schedule on that lake was between the Pro Am and the Pro Tour, and I think
Mm.
almost every weekend there was a derby, and then on top of that you have the recreational fishermen. I mean, the weather has been getting better down there. It's been a milder winter than usual,
Mhm.
um, so I kind of wonder if the pressure is going to play a role on the big fish catches. Um, I personally I've never put a boat on Don Pedro. I'll be putting my boat in for the first time, and yeah, I'm going to be swinging for a 30-pound bag. Why not? I think out of the 69 guys there, if anyone's not thinking that they should be
Yeah.
swinging for that, they're probably not getting themselves off to a good start. But I'm I'm really excited to go fish another Highland Reservoir. I love them.
Mm.
They sometimes beat me up, but I really do love them.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of great things over time about Don Pedro, and that and New Melones have been on my bucket list of places to go fish. So, um, yeah, I'm gonna go down there and kind of I'm gonna go fishing. I'm gonna do what I love. I'm gonna put together what I love. I'm gonna see what the fish are telling me and just try to go get it done.
With the format the way it is, not being able to get down there and practice much, is how is that I, positive or negative? I mean, I guess that's the best way to put it. Do you feel like that's a positive for you that you can go out there, just see the lake, and it's the same as everybody else, or would you have liked to have some practice?
No, I love it.
Okay.
It's funny. Last year, at one of the events, Mark actually he took a poll from all
Mm.
the anglers at one of the meetings. I'm sure you remember it,
Yep.
and he basically asked if to raise a hand if we wanted to have a ride around, at least a ride around, like an hour or two where you could ride around the lake or some form of practice or pre-fish, and almost the whole entire room didn't raise their hand. And I don't think I stand alone when I say that this format, it's I think it's really fun from the fact that it does balance the field a little bit. We do have some guys who are just, I mean, Christian, Randy Pearson, Jake Arbuckle, Hayden Lee, who's a young absolute hammer, and his, all these guys have lots of experience, and there's some other guys there that are mother lode guys. So obviously you're going to have a little bit of advantage, but not being able to step foot on that water for 30 days, I
Mm.
think it really just, I'd be more worried about guys like Bryant Smith, Ish, guys who can go out and really know how to find the fish, track the fish, figure out what they're doing, and then capitalize on that. And I think that's what makes this format really neat. And I personally enjoy it. I've noticed over the years, I've spent a lot of time this year kind of examining my mindset around fishing
Mhm.
competitively, because I think it's a huge thing that gets overlooked with a lot of competitors. And I personally believe, for me, when I go out and practice or I get a lot of time to pre-fish for something, I start to create these kind of preconceived uh, understandings of what I think is going to happen or what I'm going to do. And getting out of that way can be really tough sometimes.
Hmm.
And so just showing up, putting some rods on the deck, I get put up my high confidence stuff on the deck, and I get to go out and kind of see what the lake wants me to do, see what I'm going to go fish for.
Okay, I mean that makes a lot of sense. In just seeing it first and not getting it ahead. I guess not getting your own darn way, right? I mean that's kind of what you do when you go out and pre-fish. Sometimes is you go, okay, and now I know what I'm going to do, and then when things change, it makes it more difficult to make those little changes that you need to make. Um, a little bit back to the fishing part of it. You're going to get down there, and I can't guarantee there's going to be bedfish, but there's going to be bedfish, right? And there's going to be the pre-fit, there's going to be the pre-spawn, and there's going to be even some that are post-spawn because there were fish on beds at the last tournament. So that means there's going to be some post-spawn. Is there one, first of all, that you really prefer? Pre-spawn, post-spawn, the spawn itself?
I love the pre-spawn bite.
Okay.
And I mean, that probably comes from being a river smallmouth fisherman. If you come up to the river during a pre-spawn, they're aggressive, they're
Hmm.
hungry. You can get that reaction bite going if you want. They usually exist on kind of all levels of depth. So if you want to go fish shallow for them, you can probably lock that down. You want to fish deeper, you can. I think more than any of it is that just that aggressive strike that you can get from pre-spawn fish. And I don't think it just exists with smallmouth. I think all species of black bass, like when they're ready to eat and when they're feeding, I thoroughly enjoy that experience.
Is there what you said, oh, I put my confidence lures up there. Let me ask you that question. What are your confidence lures at this time of the year?
Hmm. I mean, I love reaction bites. I think in the last probably year and a half, I've become pretty heavily obsessed with fishing a glide bait.
Okay.
Um, I'm careful about that in tournaments just because um, the risk reward of it can be a really something to consider. Um, but this time of year, I one thing I've always fished for years. It's the most basic presentation. It's the most simple way to fish. But I love fishing a Kitech on a jig head.
Mm.
Just a simple swim bait. I I'll have a jig on the boat. You can guarantee that because again, if you don't enjoy this, yeah, like we all want to win, we all want to
Oh, of
go out and get
course.
the best. But if you don't enjoy this, um, it's I think it's worth examining what I'm doing if I'm not having fun. And I love a jig bite. I love that feeling. Like rocks down my spine every time I get that
Yeah.
jig. Um, and so. I've got some. I really like fishing a drop shot. We'll see if it comes into play. But my big things, spinnerbait, jig,
Okay.
Kitech, um, and some sort of worm. That's really where I'll start.
Tell a new fish story with Garmin EchoMap Ultra 2 chart plotters in 10 and 12-inch models featuring traditional clear view, side view sonar. Heard about Garmin's live scope, live scanning sonar? EchoMap Ultra 2 is compatible with that also. You can even capture your favorite and best fish catches with the new screen recording feature. What more could you want? How about built-in Garmin Navionics, inland and coastal mapping? Wireless networking? Check and check. EchoMap Ultra 2. Check it out at garmin.com or shop your local Garmin dealer.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of those things that people, it's, I feel like this is the time of year when if you like doing something, go do it because this is when they're like you said, they're aggressive. The fish are out there. They want to get that, they want to feed up, they want to get ready to go. They're going to get on that bed. With that said, when I know, and fish spawn no matter where they spawn in the rivers, and I'm sure you can find them up there. And I'm sure it's one of those things. I don't know how much more difficult it is. That water when I was up there wasn't super clear, but it was pretty darn clear, and it was and you can see it. So I'm guessing you find pockets and you find areas where those better fish are on nests and they're working it pretty good. When you find a bedfish, and this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. So I'm going to ask you, when you find a bedfish, what is your approach to it? Are you a stay way back guy? Are you somebody that's like, nope, I got to be right on top of them so I can see them, and I make it work? What is your main approach to bed fishing?
Oh man. I mean, I I'll start by saying I love bed fishing when I'm not in a tournament.
Right.
Uh, and I can really get lost in it. And that's something I've noticed especially over the past few years. I think it's more than about pulling up and seeing a fish on a bed and throwing a bait at it. You know, I really enjoy the experience of trying to see what's going to make them tick. Like I think that's the most fun for me. And um I have terrible eyes, Ed. Terrible. No, I'm not kidding. Like I wear contacts. I have astigmatism, I have like my prescription's like a 7, which if anybody knows about eyes, like I'm blind as a bat without my contacts, right?
Wow.
And so while they do make me see, I don't have the greatest vision. And so that's one thing that I always have to be like extra careful about. I actually just found Colby Pearson actually introduced me to a new sunglass company, Bahio, and I just got a couple pairs of their shades. Um, uh, I don't know what they're doing with their lens technology, but the clarity on it is lights out, second to none. I'm a huge fan of them, and they're allowing me to see again. A guy who can't really see well, um, the way they use their polarization, it doesn't affect my astigmatism, so I can see really well in the water. But I mean, I like to be far enough away where I know I can watch a fish, but I also am not close enough because I truly believe they know you're like when they know you're there, it's going to change their behavior.
Right.
I generally like to find fish when I'm covering a section of water and coming back to them later. I generally like to not stop on them right away, but for me, it's really fun to see like where that bait needs to be to trigger them. What approach I need to take, what angle that I need to be at, and that's where I get into a lot of trouble in a tournament when it's bed fishing time because I get all caught up in my own brain about the psychology of that fish. I don't even know if a fish has psychology, but in my head, I'm like, okay, how do I make this guy tick? And that usually ends up occupying more time because I'll get so lost in it, I'll quit watching the clock, and then all of a sudden I know like an hour went by and I've sat on this one fish. Um, but yeah, I guess I like to be a little far away. Sometimes they like bright colors, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes they want to be on the edge of the bed. I remember after Almanor last year, um, and maybe Mark's going to kill me for saying this, but one thing he did say, like he was talking about how in his experience on that lake, the fish they like the presentation not to stop on the beds. And that was very different than something that I'm used to doing. And so like it's just neat to see what makes them mad, what makes them want to get you off of their bed. And I get kind of preoccupied with that. So
I think, and I really think a lot of people do. I mean, it's the part of bed fishing that I think when this season comes around and there are guys out there, I think they kind of focus in on, oh, I see that one, I'm gonna sit there, and I'm one of those guys. I love bed fishing. I think it's super fun, and I've over the years I've become really really good at it. And it's just fun. So, but
We've got this lake in Washington. It's called Moses Lake, and
okay,
I I I hope that it will join the rotation of the Northwest Swing and maybe the Pro Tour someday. But it's a really unique lake. It pretty much freezes over every year, and sometime in March, the weather changes up, and it's up outside of Tri Cities. I think it's about I don't know 45 minutes an hour out of Tri Cities,
okay,
and sometime in March it thaws out. And the minute it thaws out, the smallmouth population there, and there's lake smallmouth there and largemouth, but the smallmouth population goes absolutely berserk. And it's an interesting lake. It's got a lot of shallower areas with these kind of fingers. And I went out there for the first time with my buddy Daryl Burkhart, who's fishing the Pro Tour this year. And we went out there. We were just having a fun day fishing before a tournament and at another place. And we were. It was kind of like mid spawn, and I'll never forget this. This will stick in my mind as long as I live. I wish I had a drone. Like we went down this finger and there was this huge sandbar that came out, and it was like this very long sloping point, and I'm looking at it and he pulls up to it and I'm looking at it I thought I was looking at a picture of the moon. It was this long tapering point, and I'm talking I don't know 500 feet or more long, and it was dots, it was circles everywhere. I mean everywhere.
wow,
And it didn't look like it was so many that I was like, there's no way those are beds. And I even said, I said, what is that? And he goes, those are smallmouth beds. And I was like, there's absolutely no way. And like, you want to talk about bed fishing Mecca. I mean, that place pumps out mid 20 bags of smallmouth every spring, week
nice.
after week after week. But it's really neat to go out and experience something like that. And like you said, it's just there's nothing it's a totally different type of fun. But when you can actually look at a fish and watch them and interact with them, I mean that's I don't know, it's super cool.
I think it's also really interesting when you get, you get out there and you just look up and all of a sudden you find this one little piece of something you're just can't quite look at it, quite can't figure out what it is, and there's like an 8 or 9 pounder sitting on it. And you're just going, but it's just one little blade of grass and
Yeah.
it's in like 3 feet of water. How could that be there?
Yeah.
And Clear Lake is one of those lakes that's it's like that.
Oh, and
You're
oh
you're
God.
sitting there and all of a sudden you look over and go, that's a really big fish. Is it a
Yeah.
carp? Is it a carp?
Yeah. And then you realize it's not. And then, I have to sit down for a solid 30 seconds to a minute before I stand back up because I'm like, I don't even know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Just like you're like, oh my God. Like
Yeah.
especially you stumble on that in a tournament, man. It's almost, I mean, it
It,
can be dangerous.
it's absolutely, well, it is. I mean, it's one of those things that you, like you said, it's you want to sit down and just take a breath and go, okay, how am I going to approach this?
Yeah.
And what do I have to do to get that guy to eat? And because it's not always the same thing. And like you said, sometimes you get to sit there. And I feel like when you do that, if you're in a tournament and you come across that fish, and you're sitting there and you go, okay, now what do I do? Even at the level you're at, there's still that breath of what do I do now? Because am I prepared to catch that fish? Because I think that's the biggest thing with anything that people go out and at the average Joe that gets a day a month to go out and fish, he goes out there and he finds that fish sitting on a bed and he goes, now what? Can I catch that fish? I can't catch that fish. How am I going to catch that fish? I think that's
Or more
something.
importantly,
Yeah.
when do I decide to leave this fish?
Right.
Like you got two fish in the live well, you're on your first day, and guys
Yep.
are, you got guys catching them around you, and it's like, man, am I going to invest?
Oh yeah.
At what point do I tell my entire self that my brain's going to make this decision to cut it off, and I leave? And that's kind of that mindset stuff that I've been talking about a lot
Right.
and thinking about and learning about is like I think one of the hardest things to do as a bass fisherman is make a decision and commit to it. And then move forward from it, right? Because we
Right.
can make decisions and ruminate on them all the time. What if I didn't leave this spot? What if I sat on that 10 pounder for another hour? Like it's sometimes you got to just believe in your decision making and move forward. Um, and know that that was the right decision at the right time, and then it opens up your brain to go make the next decision, and hopefully it's the right one, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that's this entire sport. Like you just, kind of summed it up that way. It's all about decisions. It's all about how you go out there. And I think that's one of the biggest things that when the crossover is so hard because if you're a guy who's like, I'm going out for the weekend and I don't have anything to do, I don't have a tournament, I'm not going to fish a tournament, I'm just going out to have fun. Never leave that 10 pounder. Stay
No.
there, catch him, and stay there till you catch him. And
Yeah.
if that's like, you know what, I didn't catch any other fish today, darn it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
but I
Big Apple
sat there
sandwich.
all day trying to catch this 10,
Yep.
you know.
Like break out
But
sandwiches
but
and
like if you're talking about a tournament, there are so many different things. And I've talked to a couple guys about this very thing. It's like there has to be a time for everything when it comes to, yes, you found a 10 pounder. I couldn't get him to bite. So, I mean, I'll say this. Mark Pilgrim, when we were down at the um Colorado River last year, down in there, he's sitting on one that he says is close to 15 pounds. Sorry to pick on you, Mark. But
we're
we did
both
a
doing
little,
it.
we did a
He'll
little
be
bit today, but it was one of those things. He's
Get the
sitting on
plug.
one
We're
that
plugging it.
right, exactly. Um, he was sitting on one that was like close to 15 pounds, and I saw it, so I know it was like he was really close to that. It never came across that stage.
Yeah.
He made very good decisions to come back or not come back or go at it, and I think that's one of the biggest things that you guys have to do when you're fishing tournaments is all the decision making that you have to go through in a day. I think that's probably one of the things that most guys, most just anglers. I don't want to say guys. I keep saying guys, and I don't want to say that. It's most anglers don't take into account is the decision making that you have to make if you want to be in the top 10, if you want to be take home one of the big checks, if you want to win a tournament, it's all about decision making. I mean, Colby Pearson did back-to-back events last year, goes back out. He had never won an event before. Then he wins back-to-back events, a major one.
Well, and Colby's, I mean, the level of focus. I mean, I'm an Oregon guy. I've been
Oh
watching
yeah.
Colby for years, and the level of focus that he brought to last year was unprecedented. I mean, and something clicked within him that allowed him to shut everything off and dial this extreme focus in. I'd always try to poke at him or, high five him, talk to him, whatever, before, during, after. We'd have
Right.
conversations and it was like, and I was always blown away by how dialed his head is. And it's we just did a podcast. Jake had a friend, a guy named Dr. Jay McNamara. He's a
Mm.
psychologist, but he's an avid fisherman. I think he's worked with a lot of fishermen over the years. He wrote a book on the performance in fishing. Um, and he talked a lot about, having he referred to it as ego depletion, and it was like you have a cup, right, and you can only fill that cup up so much with your energy and thoughts and focus, and you got to clear something out to put something else back in. You lose a fish, if you sit there and be pissed off about that fish for an hour or 2 hours, you're going to lose the capacity to go make those next steps,
Yep.
right?
Oh yeah.
And I relay that back to Colby, and it didn't matter what hit him throughout the entire
Mm.
season. It was like he just stepped to the next thing. He'd clear it out of his head and he'd move on to the next thing. I
Yeah.
mean, we both know. I mean, Martinez, he was on his way home when he got the phone call,
Yeah.
right? Like, and could you imagine? Like, how do you go thinking there's no way I made the cut? I'm packing my stuff. You start making your drive home, and then you get a phone call like, "Why aren't you at the top 10 meeting?" And
Yeah.
for him to turn his truck around, get back there, and then show up the next morning and perform like he did. The guy is on an insane level of focus, and I'm really excited to see what happens this next year.
We're going to take a short commercial break and talk to you about one of our great sponsors, StoreQuest Self Storage. They're here to help you get your garage back. As an outdoor enthusiast, you have gear, lots of expensive gear, equipment, boats, trailers, and vehicles, probably all stored in your garage. You need a storage space that's easy to access, secure, and climate controlled. And that's where StoreQuest comes in. Head over to storequest.com. Plus, members receive an exclusive 10% discount with the offer code BAM10. That's BAM 10. StoreQuest is the official self-storage partner of the BAM Tournament Trail.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
I had him on the show. We did an interview with him after his Martinez win. I had that interview, and I talked to him, and I said, this is your first major event that you've ever won. What was it that you really changed? And he told me, he goes, I changed everything about my life this year. I told my company, you know what? Here's my spot. You can have it, work it, whatever. I'll be back. When I'm done living my dream, I'll be back. And after his second win at Almanor, I said, and how is it for going back to work? He said, I told them to keep the job open, but I will be back when my dream is done. He said, but I'm going to live my dream. And he told me flat out, he goes, that was my switch. He goes, that was where I just stopped thinking about everything else. I put fishing on my mind, and I went out there and did that. And I think that's one of those things that anybody that wants to do what you're doing, the Super 60 coming up on Don Pedro this weekend, those guys have all sacrificed. You have all put something aside. You run a business. Other people run a business. We all are out. You're all out there. And you have to compartmentalize, I guess, is the best way. And if you are a person listening to this show right now and you're just like, how do I become this? That is what I would tell anybody is after I have talked to, I've almost done 100 episodes, and I am looking at this thing going, I have really learned that you have to stop everything else in your life that you do and focus on being the best angler you can be. You do that in anything in your life, right? I mean, Bo, that's how everything works. If you want to be the best business owner, you got to focus on just being that business owner. If you want to be the angler, if you want to be a hunter, if you want to be, you name it, you have to give up something in your life and just focus on doing that. Now, I'm not telling you to stop paying your mortgage.
No.
I'm just telling, if this is what you're truly wants to be your dream. I want to hit one topic after this too, but if you really want to do this, you have to look forward to it. We just had a kid, and and this is the question I want to ask you. We just had this Easton Fothergill. He just ends up winning the Bassmaster Classic. He's 22 years old.
22.
We have Trey McKinney came in second. He's 20 years old.
Yeah.
On our tour, gentlemen that you've taught, Luke Johns.
Luke Johns. Hayden
Lee that you just talked about. Colby Pearson's he's not quite that young, but he's right there.
He's not that old.
He's not that old either. Exactly.
No.
There are, and I'm not saying he's old. I'm just saying he's not, he's not 21, but he's right there. These are young guys coming from, I feel like our sport's looking great. And I think I look at these kids coming out of college now. We have the high school ranks. We've got college ranks. We've got, Mark just started doing that with this. Well, now we've got the Super 60. We've got a way to become a professional bass tournament angler on the West Coast, man, and all over the place. And the question I want to ask you is, where do you see this going, out here on the West Coast? Is it something that young kids coming out of college, you know what? If you want to be a professional angler, there's a home for you now.
Well, yeah.
Is it there now, or is it something to look forward in the future?
I believe that Mark has created. I believe he's created something that we've never seen on the West Coast. I believe there's been iterations of it that have been close,
Mm.
but I think in 2 years we're already seeing that he is. See, the thing is like when you are talking about, because you're right, this is all a passion-based thing,
Of course.
and I don't know if we're at the point on the West Coast, and I don't know if we ever will be. I genuinely just don't know. But, you know, if I was to be on record and somebody asked me if you could make a living fishing on the West Coast, I would tell you not to cash in your chips on it. Not now.
No.
There are guys doing it. Ken Ma obviously is doing it. There's other guys who are doing it. Bryant Smith, he's
Mhm.
obviously a Bassmaster elite, but he doesn't work. He doesn't have a job. Um, I think that the opportunity can present itself over time, but it's kind of this cyclical thing. And
Mm.
and really what you need is you need a platform and a product to do it. Bam has put has started to put that product together. You have you have now a pro only tournament that you have to qualify for moving forward, right? You got to start somewhere. So we
Mhm.
had to get people into this. Um, but you build that, and we're getting $50,000 a tournament. I mean, I don't think that's existed. I don't know when the last time that's existed on the West Coast. Um, and I don't know if it's existed at all as a pro only event on the West Coast. So now you've created something that, is unusual for out here. And then it's about building those feeders to it. And I feel like Mark has gotten a start. Like the pro-ams, look at year one. What did Shasta have last year? What was it, like 60, 70?
30 35, no, it was 35, 38 pros and 30 and 36 AMs, or was
That
it
was it?
I want to, I'm pretty sure that was really, yeah, I
I
think we
thought
were,
he had 40 or 50, but regardless,
maybe we had 40, maybe it was 45 and 40 and 40, or 46 and 45. It could have been right there. So dude, you know me.
but if right, well, but if you looking at that, let's say it
Right.
was 50. I,
Let's say it was 50. Yeah.
let's say it was 50.
Okay.
Like if you would have asked me before January if Bam would have brought over 100 boats, I wouldn't have bet on it.
Right.
We brought 130 people showed up for the pro-am,
Yeah.
right?
Little over that, but yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the follow-up is Pedro is over 80 boats showed up for Pedro.
Yeah.
Um, the Northwest brought over 40 anglers to Shasta after he announced the Northwest division.
Yep.
Um, so what you are creating is you're creating a feeder to get to the product, and
Right.
and people are interested in it. And now you have, now he's starting the collegiate and the high school thing, which I think is a heavy feat to pull off out here, but at least you're starting something. And what really I think, I think that part is what excites me the most is that is it there yet? No, but has it started to be a glimpse? Yes. And he's getting communities behind it, that he's getting sponsor support from the communities. He also creates a media platform. He took his entire media platform and he pushed it into the circuit. And again, that's something that we haven't seen on the West Coast. So, gosh, is it gonna work? I sure hope so. Is everything involved to make it work?
Yeah.
I sure think so. And, if we all work together to keep pushing this and we all keep kind of, lifting it up, I really think it's going to turn into something really special. Because what's the alternative, right? You're
No.
traveling long ways and then all of a sudden it increases the cost so heavily,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And, if I was talking to a kid who wanted to do this, yeah, if you're in high school, if you're in college, jump in on this. I mean, how cool is it that you guys put high schoolers on the back of boats on pro-ams? I mean, that's an experience that,
Oh,
a high schooler can get that is unlike anything else. I think you can get on the West Coast. And if you want to jump in the pro-ams and you want to join, get a shot at jumping in on the pro tour, um, the media platform's there to go out and get sponsor support. I don't think we'll make a living, but man, if you can get your entry fees covered, all of a sudden that changes everything.
That's, it's funny you say that because that's one of those things that I believe is really lacking out here, and it's probably what is keeping the West Coast from being as popular as it is. I'm sitting right now and I'm wearing a Sacramento Kings hat. I've been a Kings fan since they've been here. They You look at them and they struggle to grow like the Lakers, like the Clippers, like the, West Coast stuff, right? Why? Because they're a small market. Well, when you talk about fishing out here, the West Coast is the small market, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you go back east and it's not a cliche to say every dang driveway has a bass boat in it. They are embedded in this sport. I don't know how we change that culture or anything out here on the West Coast. And I don't know if it can be done. It's a question I always ask, and I think it's an important question that needs to be brought up. But I think that I've seen now that I've been with BAM I've been with BAM before the trail started, and it's one of those things I've seen little by little, just West Coast a little bit here, West Coast, West Coast, West, and it grows and it grows and it grows, but it's growing so slow and so much into it. Do you think that the West Coast opinion of what bass fishing is and the way that it can be will ever change enough for us to be that big as like
No.
the Bassmasters Classic?
Like, first of all, I don't, and I'm not saying it can't grow,
Right.
but I don't. I'm going to butcher this statistic, but I think that the West Coast covers less than 20% of the industry market, and so we're like a very small piece of the pie, and we also don't have the density of fisheries that you see on the East Coast in the South in
Yeah.
Texas. I mean, Jesus, I think there's probably more fisheries in Texas than there are on the entire West Coast, like good tournament capable fisheries, right?
Mhm.
Um, we also battle a lot of um, regulation stuff that I think
Yeah.
will always tend to get in the way. So there's a lot of bigger picture things that get in the way, I think, of us getting to that level. But I think that we can still grow. I mean, if you
Hmm.
go back to the days of the National Guard, Bassmaster was here.
Yep.
Uh, you were having 200 plus boat tournaments. There were big tournaments here that were regional, local Northwest tournaments that would draw 200 or 300 boats. Um, so do I believe that we could get back to that level? Yes. And I think we're primed for it because I feel like we got to a point where I think right about the time Wild West kind of fell apart, and then, now we lost MLF. BASS made the huge change from all the Bass Nations to be able to have a regional out here. Um, I feel like we hit a point where there were so many options and there were so many different things that you could fish, that there were more options than there were people to fill those options. And so I think it spread out the density of
Hmm.
people that would go to tournaments. And then of course you'd get people that were loyalists to certain events, and you know how the drama of,
Of
we,
course.
we like to call it the BS vortex
Yep.
on the Bass Cast. So you get that involved, and then you start to get guys that are dedicated solely to one event or one trail, and then they don't fish the other trails.
Right.
So, I like to joke as a joke, kind of, I call it the Great Reset. Like, we've had a
Mm.
big
Yep.
shift here. So MLF is gone. BASS is they've changed things enough to where I don't think they've created an interest on the West Coast nearly like it used to be. And then obviously Wild West is gone too. So you truly have one bass, which is a different type of thing. It
Hmm.
is a circuit. You have the U.S. Open, which is, legendary, huge on the West Coast. But those are more like opens. That's a
Right.
different format. It's a combined weight. And then you have the one pro-am, which is BAM, with an opportunity to fish a pro tour. So you have these two major platforms that, you know, people can go fish both of them because they're different. Um, you don't have to decide between 4 or 5 different options. And so I think it gives a really great opportunity on the West Coast to kind of lean back into what it used to be and start getting people to show up and fish these.
At Ford Fairfield, we'll make your ownership experience simple. Our simple price, simple process is designed to save you time by eliminating the back and forth. That means you'll always get our very best, highly competitive offer right up front. No games, no gimmicks. Our goal? To provide you with an exceptional experience. Stop by or book your appointment today. Ford Fairfield, simple price, simple process.
Yeah, I mean those are all great points, and for me, it's one of those things. I've been a California guy forever. I'm born and raised here, and it has been amazing to watch our sport turn. But at the same time, I've always been somebody who wants to see. I want to see the Bassmaster Classic here. I want to see without it being the Bassmaster Classic. I guess if
Sure.
that makes sense. It's like I want to see BAM have an event that big. I want to see everybody that is in an area. When we went to Almanor, great turnout.
Oh man, that was
Yeah, when we went down to the Colorado River, Lake Martinez, great turnout. There were a lot of people that just showed up out of nowhere and wanted to be there. I am a guy, you put me on the stage, and I want to do the best show that I can do for everybody out there. And if you put 5,000 people in front of me, it's not going to matter. I'm going to do the same show, and I'm going to try to entertain everybody. I want
Right.
you guys to have the best experience. I want you guys to be all this stuff. But I want to see that, and it makes me just so excited. I went to the last time that BASS was out here. I was there in the crowd. I was there in the fans. I was working the shows. And I know that people will show up. There are fans here in California that went to the Delta, that went to Sacramento when they blasted off out of there. There were fans everywhere, thousands and thousands and thousands of them. I just don't know how we get them that excited. How do we do that? That's what I want to see. And if anybody out there, if you're listening right now and it's like, you know what, I would show up to these, but please reach out to us. Tell me, because I want to do what we can do to get people out there. I think watching these guys, the way that they go out and fish, the weights they bring in, the fish they bring in, the way that our circuit is where they can watch it on Tourney X all day long while the Super 60's out there. They can watch how many fish they're catching. They can see it on their phones. They can do all that. And then come up to the stage and watch them weigh in the 5 biggest they can. It's exciting. I mean, there's something out there for it, and you can be a part of it. Now we just have to figure out how to get people there.
I've got a great idea, Ed. Mark,
Okay.
Lassane's going to love this.
All right.
Okay. I think BAM needs to invest in about a dozen pontoon boats.
Okay.
And you guys can take fans on ride arounds to watch anglers fish.
Well, let me,
You could do live tours.
right. I mean, honestly,
I'm joking, Ed.
I know that you're joking, and I
You're taking this
understand that,
seriously.
but I'm not taking it seriously as that part. But I've asked Mark about this. What about doing? What would you think? What would you think if you're an angler out there? You're the pro angler. You're fishing the Super 60. What about putting marshals up there? What about having a marshal program again? Or I don't want to say again because we've never had one, but having a marshal program where guys can come qualify for it and be a marshal on a boat all day long and follow. It's like, hey, yes, I just sit out here and make sure that this guy does what he's supposed to do and doesn't breaking the rules. And at the same time, he gets back. Did they get back? Their families have come down to see what's going on. They blah, 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 that sort of thing. And now you've got people absolutely wanting to be a part of it. What do you think about something like that, a marshal program?
I mean, I think it would have to be done correctly. I think a lot of the reason that a lot of us are eager to fish this is because we get to be on a boat by ourselves and we don't have to consider anyone else around us. There's a mental shift when you have to consider another person on your boat. I think these large organizations that do marshal programs, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think you have to get certified. There's a process that you have to go through. Because, at the end of the day, those marshals are there for one reason, right? What's the main reason they'd be there is,
make sure you're following the rules.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think if BAM ever got big enough to need something like that, I think that could be, and it was done right, I think it could be a really cool thing. I think to go back to your original point of, growing a fan base and getting people there, I think again, I have to remind myself sometimes, like it's grown so fast, and you guys, when you guys show up, it looks like such a production
Right.
that I have to remember that like this is the second year that you guys have ever done this, right? So
Yep.
you think about the relationships that Mark has started building with all these communities. I mean, Boardman, man, we had
Oh
the
yeah.
fire truck showing up, like there was a huge presence from the community, and I wonder if we keep coming back to these places and we keep rotating through them, with the relationships that Mark's building. I wonder if that will implement them to kind of like get the community more involved and for people to remember, like, hey, oh yeah, they were here last year. That was cool. I'm gonna grab my buddies and go down, and there's a food truck there, and we're gonna bring a cooler full of beer, and we're gonna watch guys weigh in fish. Um, and Ed's gonna tell us a bunch of jokes. Um, so I
Just
wonder
because
if it just needs.
just because hold on with the joke thing. Just because you didn't bring up the biggest bag, don't call it a joke, man. it's, it's one of those things. But I'm glad you brought up Boardman because we got there, and I have been with Mark around this whole thing and the way he's been growing this, and I've been around him when it was just the magazine. I don't think I've ever seen a community, maybe Almanor, but I've never seen a community that just wants to embrace it so much. I mean,
Oh man.
we were up there and they're like, we want to do it inside. We want to drive through weigh in
Oh
at
yeah.
our brand new center, our center.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is amazing that they are there. The crowd was adequate. It was nice. It was good. I'm glad to see it. But if we have a drive-through weigh-in in their brand new Civic Center,
Yeah, the
huh?
sage.
The
Yeah.
Sage Center, it's like, are you kidding me? This would be something amazing.
Yeah.
I just I don't know
Well, and
why I get so excited about. I want to see the crowds. I want to see the fans show up so that you guys have. I just feel like that's the most important thing out there is fans showing up and supporting what we do on the West Coast and saying, you know what? I am glad that there's a sport out there that I can gladly take my kids to, that I can gladly be a part of and show off and say, look at what these guys are doing. And they're not strung out. They're not, multi-billionaires that are not, approachable. They can come up and see you guys. We've had meet and greets and everything else. They can come see you guys wherever they want. We
well,
do it
in
all the time.
Almanor, man, that was electric. Like
Absolutely.
I I did not expect. Um, I mean, the first day away in, it was. I was like, I was blown away the first day at the amount of people are there, and then day two, and it was like, I mean, Pilgrim's a hometown hero there,
Oh, of
obviously,
course.
but like they showed up to see how their lake turned out, and that was what was cool. Is
Right.
you had a bunch of people, they pulled up, they brought lounge chairs and had
Oh
coolers,
yeah.
and it was really really neat. It really made it really exciting. And I agree with you, man. I hope, every event, I hope we get a draw of some people that show up because it makes it fun. I like chatting with the people. It's neat to interact with them, hand out some, discount tackle, gift certificates, and um, you know, interact. It's
Oh
really
yeah.
part of what makes it really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that. I mean, when I turn around up there on that stage and I see, you know, 80, 100 people out there, it's like, all right, they're
Yeah.
coming out and they're
Let's
seeing
go.
it, they understand it, and
Yeah.
it's my job to get up there and make sure that what they see and how it goes down and making sure that it's exciting, make sure that it's quick, and make sure that it's still good and getting some of you guys to talk. Some of them are great. There's some out there, William Ponting, that are not, not the best speakers out there, but I will get it on there. And I want the crowds to come out there and go, that's my guy right there. And I'll tell you what, there were some lakes that we've gone to that I've finally seen some of that. It's like, oh no, we came for that guy. We came for Christian Ostrander, or we came for, Luke Johns, or we came for, Beau Fletcher, or we came for, you name it. There are small pockets, especially Oregon was one of those ones, where it's like, oh no, we came for this guy. We came to see that guy. It's crazy just to see that. And I know it's there. And that's where I feel like it should be going. Right. And I just really want to see you guys there. So
I think
everybody
it's gonna happen.
come
I
out.
really do, Ed. Yeah, no, I think it's gonna happen, Ed. I really believe that. Again, I'm gonna hammer it home. Like Mark has put so much energy into
Oh,
building
yes, he
relationships with
has.
communities, and I think that's what's gonna pay off.
I
Um,
I I will
Chicken Ranch is gonna be
never. Yeah.
cool. Like we
Oh my
had,
God, Chicken Ranch was
they're
so cool to stay at, and we'll be down there
oh,
this
and
week. So,
I know I haven't been. I can't wait to go and hearing about the meet and greet and they Chicken Ranch is putting a lot of energy into it and they're cross promoting it and it's neat to connect with the communities. I think it's something that's fun because yeah, we're there to fish a derby, we're there to win,
yeah.
you give it our best, but there's also an element that I feel like is bigger than that and it's connecting with people that share that passion. And I think that's what's really really fun. So,
All right, Bo, this is it, man. There is about 5 to 7, 8 minutes left here.
okay.
We've talked about some fishing. We've talked about the Super 60. We've talked about the future of the West Coast and how things are going to go out here. And everybody's sitting here going, man, that guy's made some great points. He's talked about a little bit about fishing, how it goes. It's not exactly the show that I always do where we talk always fishing, but I think you're such an important person in this sport and on the BAM Trail and on the West Coast in general. You're a great ambassador for this sport. So talking about some of the opportunities coming out here are great, but people are sitting there going, and who is this? So Beau
Yeah. That's a
Fletcher.
great question.
So Beau Fletcher, this is your time to kind of tell everybody where they can talk. Where can we follow Beau? Where can we see this stuff that he's talking about? How do it is, and who the heck is this guy, man?
Well, that's a great question, man. That's a great question. Um, I'll give you a little bit of history. So, I'm a fourth generation sportsman. My whole family's from Oregon. My whole dad's side of the family, they're all from Hood River, which is right on the Columbia River. Um, you know, I I have always had a love for doing something in the outdoors. And believe it or not, and this is going to shoot all of my credibility right through the toilet, but I don't, it is what it is. I actually fished my first bass tournament 5 years ago. And so it didn't take long for me to figure out that all I wanted to do when I wasn't trying to make a living was to bass fish like on derbies. I love fishing derbies. And I've always wanted an opportunity to fish by myself. I enjoyed fishing team stuff. I enjoy fishing in other formats, but I always wanted to fish alone. Pretty much early on, I've watched Bassmasters for years. I've seen stuff like that. I honestly didn't know it existed on the West Coast at the level it did. And I wish I had known that a long time ago. So, but yeah, I really am just a guy who's insanely passionate about competitive bass fishing. And I think on the West Coast, we have incredible fisheries. I think that there's some of the best fishermen on the West Coast. And I like to put myself right out of the frying pan into the fire. I want to be, if I'm going to compete, even if I'm getting my ass handed to me, I want to be put up against the best guys out there. And I want to learn how I can get better every time by getting my butt kicked. So that's really who I am and why I'm here. And I truly am passionate about the people that love what I love. And because if we all don't focus on loving bass fishing, then it wouldn't be here. So, Jake Boomer from Alpha Angler Rods. I also fish. That's the only rod I fish. It's the only rod I'll ever fish as long as he keeps his little business running. Him and myself and Bryant Smith started a podcast this year, and we just wanted to get the word out about West Coast bass fishing. We wanted to talk more about, get the Northwest guys a way to understand what was going on out here and try to push BAM and even one bass and everything going on the West Coast. And so, we started doing a lot of that, and I just want to be an ambassador to bass fishing in any way I can. I'm no Ken Ma, probably never be a Ken Ma. But I'm just gonna do what I can to, I work hard to build sponsorships because that's how I can go fish at this level. I'm not a wealthy man, but I get by. I take care of my family, and um, I just want to go fishing, man. That's all it is. Just want to go fishing.
Don't you say I'm going to ruin my credibility? I've only been doing this for 5 years, but let me tell you something. Everybody listening right now, it only takes you 4 3/4 of a year to be as good as Beau Fletcher, right? That's all he's saying right there.
That's it.
So, if you go out and you want to fish and you want to come do this, man, come be a part of it because, like, we have the pro-ams right now. I hope that everybody that wants to be out there, if you want to just come out and see, you know, all your family tells you you're a really good fisherman. Get off the couch, come out and show us you're a really good fisherman. Be a part of it. Make the Super 60. Come up here, make our championships, and just come win because these guys are out here. They're really good. Beau, let me ask you. I love kind of ask this question just to see what they say. You've got one angler out there that you came up, one angler you had to fish against, one angler that you just look up to and go, that is who I'd love to have a career as. Who's that angler out here on the West Coast that who's your idol, man? That's the question. That's the question. Who would be that guy that you go, I wish I had his career?
Oof. The first thing that comes to mind, and obviously I've fished against him for years, and now I do it on at the Super 60 as well. But I've always been a huge fan of Greg Gutierrez. I
Aha.
I
Darn it. His head's gonna get big again.
That's fine. I think I think he already knows he's awesome, and I think that's
Yeah.
what makes him awesome. I'll never forget the first time I ran into him. I I can't remember how many years ago. It was probably 3 4 years ago because
Mm.
I fished locally for a year, and then I immediately jumped into the Wild West and wanted to get right into it. And we were at Shasta, and it was day one. We were weigh-ins, and I pulled my boat up to the dock, and he was parked like on the other side of the dock. And I remember he was walking back to his boat, and I was going out to get a weigh bag. And I looked right at him, and I was like, "Hey, Greg, my name's Beau, and I'm a huge fan of yours." And he goes, "Oh, that's awesome. I'm a huge fan of me too." And I was so tickled by that moment. And he's just, I don't know. I've always, I used, I watched him on the West Coast Bassmasters. Um, he was, I think when I started really thinking about this heavily 5 years ago, it was at the time, it was a guy who was, he had a career as a firefighter. And he was also, a very successful fisherman. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed watching him fish. And I've always enjoyed kind of being around him. So I don't need, honestly, we fished together last year. I think if you put my picture in front of him, he probably don't know who I am, but that's all right. That's what
That's
makes it good to be a fan, right?
right. It is. It's 100%. I think there are so many good anglers on the West Coast, but he is truly somebody that does stand out to me. He has for years. I've fished with him. I've known him for ever at this point, and he's just a guy that like you said, for the sport, he stands up, and he is a great ambassador for it. Loves loves bass fishing and loves West Coast. He's been on East Coast. He's been on the Bassmasters Trail. I I'm pretty positive he's made the classic before, right? I think so.
I
So
mean, he
yeah,
does his list of accreditation is huge for a West Coast guy.
what he's done is absolutely ridiculous and great guy
But
to
his
pick. Great guy to
confidence,
he is.
that's what I like. That's what I've always loved about him. Like he just exudes like I believe that confidence in loving what you're doing in the moment go hand in hand. Like when you're truly just immersed in fishing, when you're truly immersed in the excitement of being there, that I think that's part of what brings out confidence. And I always felt like he kind of, there's never been a time I haven't been around him or seen him or ran in where he didn't have that. And I think that's something that's really, really neat.
Well, Beau, thank you for coming on and doing the show, man. It's great to talk with you all the time. I love being up there and seeing you guys. I can't wait for this weekend. It should be a great event. Hope you guys come down and find all the smallmouth you're looking for. But it's one of those things that they're out there. There are plenty of big fish, and this should be a great event. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. I hope you got a lot out of it. We just talked, so much about the experience of bass fishing itself, and this is that time of year when guys are going to be firing up. They're going to be going out there. They're going to be looking for bedfish. They're going to be looking for the fish of a lifetime. You know what? I hope you go out there and catch one. I hope you catch the fish of a lifetime. But more than that, I hope you come out and you check us out at Don Pedro. We'll be down there the 28th, 29th, and 30th. You can meet Bo. We'll be at the Chicken Ranch. We'll be doing a meet and greet out there and having all the great anglers that are on the Super 60 are going to be out there. And you know what? Come down, get some autographs, meet some people, shake some hands, and see some of these guys. And you know what? While you're there, have a great dinner and check out the Chicken Ranch. That is a great place. So, Bo, again, thanks for coming on and doing the show. I really appreciate it. You're a great guest, and we'll see you soon, my friend.
Thanks so much, Ed. I'm really looking forward to hanging out with you next week.
All right, man. And you can tell your wife it took me everything to not say the middle name.
Well, maybe we need to put a poll out there because
I know. I feel like we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can just. I think my jersey still has the middle name on it.
I can't do anything about that. She's going to be mad at me. She's going to yell at me because it's.
I think you should just do whatever feels right in the moment, Ed.
When we
if all three names come out, then that's what I am for the day. I'm good with that.
Yeah. No, you're going to get me. You just like getting me in trouble. All right, man. Thanks again. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. In a couple weeks, we'll be back with another great angler just like Beau Fletcher here. So thanks for tuning in.